top back frame tube. So we've got to put a angled bin in this. We've got to find our angle. It actually doesn't have the angle on the drawing. So I'm going to go back in and measure the angle, and then I will show you the result here in just a second. I updated this drawing here, and I'll eventually print it back off to show the angle. How I did that is it is a line-to-line angular dimension, and so you have to zoom in to this one. Another way to do that, instead of just going through the drawing, like if you're having trouble determining how to do an angle on a drawing, you can always go back into the original sketch to see what you created. It'll also tell you radius of the bend. So this is in Part Studio. I went back to the original sketch. Something else that you're going to need is a tube bender. And how this works is you put your die on there. This is 3/4 inch piece here that fits into. That's going to go down here. So this is a giant protractor, normally used for woodworking, but it's got measurements for a miter saw, protractor, which is what we're going to look at. And then when I do these measurements, we're starting with 180 degrees. You can see that here on the protractor. And then when we bend this, we want to bend it until we get to that 105 degree mark. That's probably the easiest way to do it, is to have something like this. So we got a digital scale. And then let's take this until we get to that 105 degree mark. So a little bit more accurate. So we can use this digital scale and we can get it a little bit closer. More expensive. Old school, this one's broke, but I have another one, protractor. So you could come up here and then draw out 105 degrees and then match your piece of pop up to that. So you could have it on a drawing, match it. Same thing with this one. So this is something you can find at a hardware store pretty easy. And then you can go get your angle from that. Now we could use the drawing to do this measurement and get it exact. But here's how you can use the scale model to kind of get an idea of the length of pipe we're going to need. We're going to do this first. So we're going to do right at 5 inches. So we know this piece here is right at 5 inches long. So our scale model, we're right at 5 inches here. So we got an inch from this distance here. So that means that's 2 inches. And then so the rest will be the 8 inches there. So at the 2 inch mark, we'll measure where we want that bend to occur. So we need 2 inches of threads, and then we'll start the bend after that. Place. There we go. So that's where our bend is going to start, at that mark. Let's put this piece on now. We're going to rotate that up until it pinches in on that pipe. We'll tighten that down. All right, so we're looking for 105 degrees. This is what we're going to use. And then once we get that bent, we can kind of check it before we take it out of there. It gives me the leverage to start to bend this pipe. Now this pipe is 1/8 of an inch thick. It's going to be way harder to bend than your thinner pipes, obviously. Real quick before I go too far, just want to kind of check. Not there yet. Let me relieve some of that pressure. We'll check it. So get this started. Just going to do a quick check. I don't want to go too far. I don't think I have it there. Oh no, not anywhere even close on that one. Just going to do a quick check. We are close. Do a quick check with this one too. See if those match up. Yes, they do. Good. That looks really good. The bends match up. So we're good on those. Now we need to thread it, but we need to make sure they're cut to length. So we're going to make sure we have 2 inches of straight threads here, and then 2 inches at the bottom. I'm going to measure the distance after the bend so that I can make sure I have this long enough, because we're going to have way more bend here. In fact, we may cut that down to get it right at 2 inches. But I think we will. We're going to need to cut that down some more because this is way too much. I mean, that's almost like 4 inches before it starts to bend, so it's double what we need. So I'm going to trim this down some more. Then I'm going to start at the bend on the small scale model, and where the bend ends, I'm just going to measure that distance. So this is a much sharper bend. We only have 2 inches here, so that's going to, like if we had 4 inches, we'd be way out here and then the bend would start. It's too far. So what we're going to do, and we can always thread this in, is measure from the bend. So we're going to measure from that point. The bend stops right around there, and we're going to, from that point, measure 7 inches. So I'm going to go 7 inches from there. We'll cut that off. And I think I'm going to go from that point. It really starts to kind of bend there at 2 inches. So I'm going to cut right here where I initially had that line. And we'll use this one to measure the other one. Kind of measure where we need to cut at. Make sure that looks right. And we'll cut right there. All right, so let's cut this one. I'm doing those larger threads. We'll knock out these 2 inches, and then we'll put 2 inches on the back side of it. We just need an inch to run into the frame. We cut it just right. Actually, that may be 2 inches. Let me measure that. Oh yeah, right at 2 inches. So we got 2 inches there. 2 inches here, 2 inches here. We're gonna repeat the same process on this one. Threading this one. So let's take it off. All right, so now we've got these locked into place. That actually is looking pretty good. So we're gonna connect the rest. We'll connect the rest of the frame and get everything threaded in.